Go over basic nutrition and weight management. Having a basic understanding of nutrition will help you make educated decisions when you develop a nutritional plan so you can get the most out of that plan. So we have three main macronutrients, which are fats, carbs, and proteins. All three can be used to generate energy, or ATP, either anaerobically or aerobically. Fats can be broken down through beta oxidation, carbohydrates can be broken down through glycolysis, and proteins can be broken down through deamination. You've got to be really careful with proteins because you can have what's called protein poisoning. This happens sometimes in survival situations. An individual takes in just straight protein because they're eating snowshoe hare, they're not eating the internal organs, and so they're only taking in protein, which can be fatal. Now, proteins combined with fats are fine. Proteins combined with carbs, fats with carbs. You get the idea. You need two of the three macronutrients so that you won't run the risk of protein poisoning. So you need to combine the protein with something. You don't want to eat just straight protein. But as I said earlier, all three macronutrients can be broken down to generate ATP either aerobically, which goes through the Krebs cycle and out through the electron transport chain to net some ATP, or anaerobically. So percentages that most textbooks would recommend are 55 to 60% of your total calories come from carbohydrate, 30 to 40 from healthy fats, so polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, 10 to 15% from protein. Now, athletes may have to adjust this. So most athletes will need at least this much carbohydrate, at least 55 to 60%, especially if they're an aerobic athlete. And they may want to adjust their protein intake, increasing the protein intake and dropping back on the fat intake. The only place you really see a dramatic drop in carbohydrates when it comes to athletes are bodybuilders. So when they're trying to get really lean so that the muscles can be seen through the skin, they'll really drop off on eating any carbohydrate. So calories in the macronutrients. So we store energy, the energy that's not used in our body, in fat. So 9 kcals per 1 gram of fat. So for 1 gram of carbohydrate, 4 kcals or kilocalories, and for 1 gram of protein, 4 kilocalories. So that should make sense that fat is calorically dense because we can store a lot of calories compared to the other macronutrients in fat. The only thing that's close to fat that has the same caloric density would be alcohol. It has 7 kcals for 1 gram of alcohol, but it's not a macronutrient. So types of protein. So we have whey, which is what you would get from milk. Both whey and casein are from milk. Whey is digested faster. Casein takes longer to digest, gets in the system slower. So for bodybuilders, they take whey directly after a workout. They'll take casein when they want slower delivery of protein. You got to be careful with casein. It can cause constipation and digestive issues. And then you have eggs. The egg whites, what contains the protein, our bodies can use more of that protein than any other protein out there. Then you have soy. You can get proteins from grains and nuts and some plants. So to maintain body weight for like just the average person, you need to take in 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. That's what's recommended. Now I've seen up to 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight for endurance athletes. The older recommendation for people that were endurance athletes or bodybuilders, they would recommend, instead of going by kilogram, they would go by pounds. So 1 gram of protein per pound of weight. So I weigh 200 pounds. I'd have to take in 200 grams of protein. That's really hard to do because you have to spread your protein out throughout the day. That's not realistic for most people. But this recommendation here of 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight, that's healthy, and that is easy to maintain and easy to spread out throughout the day. So protein stores. The body doesn't store protein like it does fat. So our muscles are a source of protein, and our body can go after that source of protein if we don't take in enough calories. We can have some muscle wasting. Amino acids, you have 21, and 11 are non-essential, meaning our bodies can produce them. And then you have essential amino acids, which our bodies cannot produce. So you have 9 essential amino acids, and they're listed down through here. You have to take those in. Most of them, or all of them, are found in meats, but you can combine nuts and beans and some grains to get complete protein if you're a vegan or a vegetarian and you take in no animal products. There are ways to do it through plant sources. Types of fats. You have monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. So these are our healthy fats, and they have an impact on our cholesterol levels. You have to take in some fat because you have fat-soluble vitamins. So you need some fats. The ones we want to avoid are saturated and trans fats. Saturated are found in a lot of animal fats, solid at room temperature, and they tend to make LDL, the bad cholesterol, go up. But what's really bad about trans fats is not only does it make LDL, the bad cholesterol, go up, it also drops HDL, which we want to increase HDL. That's the good cholesterol. So our good fats lower LDL and they raise HDL. So that's what we're looking for. Bad fats. You've got saturated and trans, just like I said before. You really want to avoid trans fats. You'll see them coming out of products now, but just because it says 0 grams of trans fats doesn't mean that it has no trans fats in it. So if it's less than 1 gram, they can say no trans fats per serving. So look on the back. If it says hydrogenated oil, it's trans fats. You want to avoid it. Types of carbohydrates. So I know a lot of diets in the past, and even some recent ones, have told people to avoid carbohydrate, and that's wrong, especially if you're an athlete. Athletes need carbohydrates. So the ones that you want to avoid are simple sugars, so the bad carbs. So monounsaccharides are single sugar molecules, so like glucose, fructose, galactose. Fructose and sucrose would also be, or sucrose is a disaccharide. Fructose itself comes from fruit, so that's okay to take that in, because you're going to get all the vitamins and minerals that come with those fruits and the fiber. So fruits tend to be nutritionally dense, so we want those. What we want to avoid are candy bars. So 2 simple sugars joined together by a chemical bond. We're talking about sucrose, and our bodies will store excess calories as fat, but the main problem with that, with sucrose, is there's not any nutrients in it unless it's been fortified with something, unless it's in a product that's fortified. And then you have polysaccharides, which are in whole grains. So monounsaccharides get into your bloodstream fast, and they can cause an extreme spike in blood sugar, and your body will respond by releasing insulin so that the cells can uptake all that blood sugar. And then that can cause a drop, which could make you hypoglycemic. So if you hear of high glycemic foods, that's what we're talking about. Foods that get into the bloodstream fast and can cause a sudden drop. Whole grains don't do that. They slowly get into your bloodstream. They're delivered. It takes a lot longer for the sugars to get into your bloodstream because they have to be processed by your body. So those are the good carbohydrates. And they tend to be whole grains, nutrient dense. So they have a lot of nutrients that we want. So micronutrients. So we're talking about vitamins and minerals. So you have fat-soluble vitamins. I mentioned earlier that you want to take in the healthy fats. A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble. So we need some fats to be able to use those vitamins. And you can get too much of those. And you can get too little, especially if you don't have enough fat or you're just not taking them in. And then you have water-soluble, like B vitamins and C. They're not stored in the body, and they must be consumed. And then you have your minerals as well that need to be taken in from an outside source. So then you have HDL, which we talked about, good cholesterol versus bad cholesterol. It's high-density lipoprotein. Think of it like the vacuum cleaner for the arteries. It goes through and picks up the LDL deposits and takes them back to the liver. So you want this number to be high, so over 40. And there's a lot of research on that. They've tried to synthesize HDL because they found a population in the Mediterranean on an island that had a genetic change, and they naturally had high HDL levels. And when they looked at the elderly population, they had a higher than average centenarian population, people over 100. When they looked at their arteries, they looked like arteries of an 18-year-old. So they didn't have a lot of deposits. So LDL, low density lipoprotein, we want that number to go down. So that sticks to arterial walls and could cause plaques to form. So we want it to be under 100 ideally. So here's a good example of cholesterol and triglyceride levels and where you should be at. So total cholesterol, less than 200. Just a rough idea. LDL, we want it less than 130 here, but really less than 100 is the newer recommendation. So HDL, 50 or higher. That's good. That'll help keep your arteries clean. And triglycerides, those free fatty acids that are floating around in the bloodstream that are used as energy sources, we want them less than 200. CRP levels. So we hear in the media all the time about inflammation in the body, but how do we determine if we have inflammation in the body? You can have your creatine reactive protein levels checked, and it's produced by the liver, and as those numbers go up, it's an indication of inflammation throughout the body. So normal levels between 1 and 3 milligrams per liter. That sounds really high. I'll have to go back and check that number. I'm almost positive that's probably deciliter, but anyway, I'll go back and check it. Between 1 and 3. So caloric expenditure, calories in versus calories out. You hear that term all the time, and that is true to some extent. But what type of calories are we taking in? Are they nutrient dense? That's what we want. Because I could sit here and eat bags of sugar and not necessarily gain a lot of weight, but it's not nutrient dense, right? I'm going to get sick. I'm going to lose muscle. And as I lose muscle, that'll slow my metabolism down. But if it's nutrient dense, where I'm getting all the macronutrients and micronutrients that I need, my body will function properly. So nutrient dense, that's the way you want to go. Cholesterol ratio. So optimum is 3.5. Anything above 5 you want to worry about. Anything below 3.5 is great. So you take your total and divide it by your HDL level, and that'll give you your cholesterol ratio. There's a lot of research into this, and it's been shown that as long as you have a healthy cholesterol ratio, your risk of cardiovascular disease is reduced. And so the skill for today, or the skill we're going to do, is we're going to do a nutrition analysis. So you'll determine what you eat in a 24-hour period, and you'll assess the total calories and macronutrients, and then you'll develop a nutrition plan to reach your goals. When you assess this, look, are you taking in nutrient-dense calories? If not, and you're able to maintain your weight, replace those same calories with nutrient-dense calories, and I promise you, you'll have a change. You don't even have to restrict the number of calories that you're taking in, as long as they're what you're already taking in maintains your weight. So this was a longer video. I'm trying to keep them under 10 minutes, but that's not happening.